So this is video 5 of the Silvopasture virtual tour of the Cherry Farm Research Station in Goldsboro, and I'm currently standing in an area that's been planted with cherrybark oak. This is another commercially valuable species that we really do kind of look for when we're growing things in eastern North Carolina. Oftentimes cherrybark oak, at least in this part of the state, is something that we tend to regenerate naturally in more bottomland hardwood dominated sites. However, as you can see, you can plant it. It requires a little bit more babysitting than something like loblolly pine or even longleaf pine, but with proper competition control and with the use of good quality seedling stock, you can get this stuff to grow. So this site, they planted it in the same spacing as the loblolly pine and the longleaf pine on a 6x6, but one thing that again I hope is easy enough to see is that these are on average about 10 feet shorter than the pine that are growing around them. They're also smaller in diameter, and if you look at the form, a lot of these trees have decent sized limbs all the way down. So, but again, look at the differences between form depending on location within these planting areas though. This is an interior tree. It's okay. In my eye, the limbs are a little smaller, maybe a little bit more manageable on these interior trees, but if we look over this direction, the diameters oftentimes really suffer on this interior row when it comes to cherrybark oak. Whereas this particular one, this is a nice diameter for only 13 years for an oak tree. However, look at that limbiness. I'd have some concerns over the long-term value of a tree growing in here. But again, this is the type of thing that needs to be looked at when we talk about these silvopasture systems, is what species work well. And cherrybark oak was one thing that people just kind of wanted to look at. So it's a deciduous tree. You don't see this every once in a while or all the time in a silvopasture system, but I mean overall I think that some of these trees could probably be managed through thinning as well as pruning earlier on to maybe increase the form. However, they're few and far between, but I'd love to be proven wrong 20 years later, 30 years later, when we kind of see what these trees develop into. So with that, I will go ahead and shut off this video and move on to one last stop.